Hi, this is your host Swapnil Bhartiya, and welcome to another episode of TFiR Newsroom. And today we have with us Roi Ravhon, CEO and co-founder at Finout. Roi, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And you folks have launched FinOps dashboards to kind of build the bridge between DevOps and yet another team within organization, which in this case is going to be finance. But before we talk about this specific announcement, I would love to know a bit about the company itself because this is the first time you and I are talking. So talk about what led you to create the company.
Thank you for asking. So in my previous role, I was engineering director in a company called Logs.io, and a major part of what we had to do on a daily basis was, to be accountable for all of our cloud spend. And our cloud spend has grown from just running something on AWS to run on multi-cloud and then multi-vendors like Twilio in Mailchimp and Stripe, and the list of bills just got bigger and bigger. And finance and leadership started to ask us questions like, hey guys, the AWS bill is up by 5%. Is this good or not? Or how much do we pay for a specific, to host a specific customer or specific department or business use case? And getting all of those invoices and compile them and just search for the bits and bytes so we can understand and explain how much we're spending was one of the main challenges that we had to face, and this brought us to create Finout.
I mean, cloud cost is becoming a big challenge. It's not just recession, but in general, also companies are becoming more, kind of concerned about that. But I also want to, once again, I will talk about this announcement also. But once again, I'll just stick to the company itself. You folks, came out of stealth with, as 18 million in funding. Talk a bit once again about what are the areas that you are looking at focusing on to invest resources in. It's engineering, it's sales, marketing. So let's talk about your own growth areas.
So, in Finout, we're a 1.5-year-old company, but running super fast. As you mentioned, we just closed our Series A funding, and all in all, we raised $18.5 million. So, now we need to get that Finout word out there and to start and really build, a huge company and sales organization, because we know that we're focusing on a problem that is only getting started. Gartner just, recognized augmented FinOps as a trend on their hype cycle, and this whole market is being created and getting bigger and bigger by the day. And to do that and to capture that, we need to build a top-notch company and a top-notch sales organization and go to market, because we really have a unique offering that the market really needs, and we're trying to run as fast as we can to fulfill that.
Now let's talk about this announcement. Talk about what you're announcing.
So what we created in Finout, and we worked for that for a long time and kept our engineering team, is to create a fully customizable FinOps dashboards. And the way that we took over the problem is that we decided that engineers are working, and they used to work in a Grafana-like environments or a Datadog-like environments, right? So they used to configure exactly what they want to see. And most vendors in the market currently just have their predefined dashboards and the things that they want you to consume the information. So what we created in Finout is a highly customizable widget system that you can then apply into your dashboards. And what we even added is the ability to create on-the-fly unit economics directly to every widget. What it means essentially is that you can stop measuring, how much money do you spend on AWS or on GCP, as a whole, or even a subset of that, and start to measure how much money do you spend, per transaction, per event, per click, per whatever, unit that you're measuring as a company. That way, creating dashboards that are suited both for FinOps and for finance can help to better communicate within the organization, because, if your AWS bill has gone up by 10%, finance is going to ask you a question, right? Like you need to be accountable for that. But if you know that you grew, at the same rate, and the price per unit, price per transaction that you pay for your organization remain the same, so it doesn't matter that you paid for more money for a vendor, because you managed to bring in more business and to generate more revenue. And that way, using those FinOps dashboards, you can work, to create that collaboration between different parties in the organization and make sure that everyone are aligned for the same business KPIs.
Can you also talk about some of the specific of the dashboard? How does it look like? And how does it work for the teams?
The way that FinOps dashboards is working is that companies can create their own set of filters and group eyes and visualization across all of their cloud providers and services and even Kubernetes, right? So they have the most granular units that are for their disposal in order to create those visualizations. And each widget can have its own visualization type. So it can be a pie, a bar chart, table, even a bubble map, whatever that makes sense for that specific visualization. And it can be applied with global filters as well, meaning that you can create an entire dashboard, to show your showback for the entire company. And then you can filter it out by specific teams using another feature that Finout has called virtual tags that allows you, to aggregate different parts of your application. And that way, the entire widget set is going to collaborate with that filter, and this can be sent, as a scheduled report. So finance can get a daily brief, of how much did the organization spend yesterday, and how the unit economics are performing, and maybe there's a decrease, maybe there's an upward. So something has changed, and this need to be, something that we take into account. And even financial teams can get once every month the breakdown of COGS versus non-COGS cost, and breakdown of staging, and for the engineering managers. So there's actually infinite amount of use cases you can do with fully customizable dashboards, because this is what we were aiming for. Every company has its own way of operating, and we can support them.
We have seen this trend of more and more things are moving into developers' pipelines. Earlier, developer, just write an application, you're done. Now it's getting too much. First of all, what do you think about this trend? Because the fact is, as much as we love to talk about unicorn developers or DevOps, the fact is there are still soft silos within companies. Different folks specialize in different fields. So first of all, talk about what do you see of this trend, and then second, of course, how are you looking at it by with this dashboard to help those who are working in these areas?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the shift left movement has that trend has left the station, right? So everyone are working towards shifting everything left, and the way that we purchase software has fundamentally changed. And engineer can put on his credit card, to run and purchase a few small transactions, and then procurement gets into the picture, close a bigger contract, and then we're still left with usage-based price software, meaning that engineers can just purchase $100,000 worth of servers, and no one will know. They don't need to get any approval. And in order to compensate for that needs, CFOs started to get blind. They don't understand how much money they're spending across the organization, and they're just left to the grace of engineers to interpret their cloud spend for them. And FinOps, was born in order to fulfill that gap and make sure that we can more effectively collaborate as an organization. So finance are not feeling, left out of the picture, but engineers need to know that there's a financial meaning for what they're doing, and they can't just, spend whatever they want, because the company needs to still make money. And, when the current market downturn, everyone is focusing on profitability, and every dollar counts, and we start, to cut dollars from every department and every S&M expenditure, and, DevOps continue to run free. And this can no longer be the case, because COGS are, something that we need to be accountable for as a company. And if we're spending more money to run the same kind of service that we ran yesterday, meaning that our unit economic has gone up, it just means that we're going to earn less money in the end of the period. And this can eventually impact our actual gross margin and put us, into real troubles with our investors if we're public companies, and we can actually look better on our financial reports. So using those FinOps dashboard that we released, engineers can make sure that they are keeping track with their growth, and it's okay to make architectural changes, and it's okay to push code and to run fast, and they need to do that. They need to prioritize on delivery, but they can also need to make sure that they're not doing anything that can be severely wrong or actually impact the company while doing that.
I think one of the big difference here is that since now, because of this because of the whole cloud, developers, they themselves, procure a lot of resources. So this does solve immediate problem, which is actually associated with, DevOps team themselves. It's not looking at a separate problem and trying to get into a separate department. Can you also talk a bit about, as you were talking about potential economic downturn, potential recession? We don't know whether that will happen or not, because countries are taking some, steps to mitigate that. But are you seeing any impact where customers or users are looking at cutting at things, or they're actually looking at making things more efficient so that they don't have to do that cuttings?
Yeah, so cloud cost is often the second biggest expense in organization after salaries, and you can't just ignore that. And it's easy to cut down on HR cost, and to cut down headcount, and to do lots of really immediate terms, because those are the things that you have to do in order to keep your company running. But if you want to prioritize for the long run, so obviously you can't compromise on your service. Now you're in a position that you need to sell as much as you can, but you need to make sure that you can maintain a healthy margin, and you can be more and more profitable, and the economy of scale should kick in at some point. And if it's not going to kick in, so we have a real problem as a business, and it's going to be very hard for us to get our next round in. So companies that are funded and took a lot of money and can run super fast now need to be also accountable for what they're doing, and their board starts to expect them to show their path to profitability. And when SaaS companies that have their almost most of their cogs is cloud spend, this is the first thing that they need to be looking at. So it's not an immediate term as reducing headcount, but this is the long-term solution, and this is the way that we can become from a mediocre company to an excellent company, because we could show better and better margins.
As interesting as Kubernetes is, it's solving a lot of problem. The complexity that it brings, companies realize, if we just wanted to do this much, now we have to deal with this massive complexity just to get that one thing done. And that's where a lot of companies are coming in. But the challenge is that those companies bring solutions which are opinionated. And sometimes you lose the flexibility that Kubernetes offers, because you are just using us. So then what is the even point of using Kubernetes, because you are just using, a well-defined menu from their specific companies. So personally, if I ask you, are you also seeing that companies are feeling this pain of complexity of Kubernetes?
Yeah, so Kubernetes is a blissful, but also a curse, right? So it gives us the ability to do stuff that we never thought about going to be possible before, and allows us to develop so fast and deploy code so fast and do those amazing things. But it also brings a nightmare of management, and it's a huge cost management problem, because we pay AWS by the instance, but we're actually consuming pods, so we got to have something to gonna translate that, and it's just a minor part of the entire spend problem. So the Kubernetes ecosystem, you see, there's tons of startups that are working to optimize and to operate and to troubleshoot Kubernetes clusters, because it is a highly sophisticated problem. But I don't see a way back at this point. Like, Kubernetes is a ship that has sailed. Like, the flexibility that it brings is just outweighed all of the complexity that it brings to the table.
Right. Thank you so much for taking time out today, and not only talk about, of course, Finout, but also the challenges, of course, the pain that companies are facing when it comes to cost, and also trying to help DevOps teams not only accountable to the accounts, the spending that they do, but also kind of build a bridge between two different teams, so they can better understand, they have better visibility, as also you said, that they can actually see that this cost is also, increasing your revenues. So thanks for sharing those insights. And as usual, I would love to have you back on the show, because this is a topic which is really becoming very, very hot and debated these days. So thanks for sharing your insights.
Thank you so much for having me tonight.